Koh Samui or Hua Hin? Which is the better travel destination? Over the past year, I've spent 3 months in Koh Samui and I've recently just spent a month in Hua Hin, and both are amazing, incredible destinations that you absolutely must visit. But if you had to visit one, which one is better specifically for long-term living? In this video, I'm going to be going over 9 different categories and seeing which is better for the overall lifestyle and experience, Hua Hin or Koh Samui. So as for category 1, nature and the overall experience with nature in the 2 destinations, both locations have very different nature, but I have to say this is an easy win for Koh Samui. The beaches in Koh Samui are way nicer than Hua Hin. Hua Hin doesn't have the best beaches, in all honesty. Now, that's not to say that there's no nature in Hua Hin. There is some spectacular, amazing bits of nature to see in and around Hua Hin. The one thing I will say is that the amount of things you actually can see is way more in Koh Samui than it is in a place like Hua Hin. And there's overall just more things you can discover, explore, and experience in Koh Samui from a nature perspective. So Koh Samui easily wins the nature category. The next category is infrastructure and how built up each destination actually is. Now, while Samui is very built up, you know, it's got an airport, it's got shopping malls that you can go to, hospitals, all that sort of thing, it doesn't really compare to Hua Hin. You know, for example, the sidewalks on Koh Samui are basically non-existent, whereas Hua Hin is a very walkable city that you can get around really easily in. And on top of that, the infrastructure itself is so much more built up in Hua Hin. Not only do you have big condo buildings and things like that, but you also have really big malls that you can shop at. And although Samui does have one mall, Samui Central, it doesn't compare to the size and variety of the malls that you have here in Hua Hin. And generally speaking, when a location has a bit more infrastructure, it comes with some nicer, more luxury things. Like, for example, in Hua Hin, you've got really nice fine dining restaurants, you've got rooftop bars and things of that nature that make it a really cool experience. So I'd say for the infrastructure category, easy win for Hua Hin. The next category is nightlife. Now in Hua Hin, while there are certain specific bars that are really nice, do really nice drinks and are even open really late, if I'm being honest, most of the nightlife in Hua Hin resolves around its very famous bar streets. Now, while there are some really nice restaurants on said bar streets, and there are even just some pretty chill, low-key bars that you can, you know, meet people and just play pool at. As for the nightlife you can get in Samui, completely different experience. There's everything from just really nice luxury beach bars to bustling nightclubs. It's an easy win for Samui. The nightlife there is exceptional. Next up is activities and things you can actually do and see while you're in these amazing locations. Now, this is a pretty tightly contested category, to be honest. Hua Hin does have some of the most incredible day trips you can experience in the world. There's obviously Praia Nathon Cave down south, which was one of the most spiritual, incredible places I've ever been to in the entire world. You know, while there are all these incredible trips that you can experience in Hua Hin, Koh Samui does have similar, if not better, options. You know, there's all the neighboring islands, there's obviously the national park, all these incredible things that you can do in Samui. I'd say the difference is that if you wanted to explore a waterfall or a really nice beach or a viewpoint or things like that, generally speaking, regardless of where you're staying in Samui, you'll have access to endless things you can explore within a half an hour drive, whereas in Hua Hin, sure, there are maybe 3 or 4 places in the actual city of Hua Hin that are really worth checking out and are close by, but if you want variety and you want a lot of things to explore, you're generally speaking going to have to drive really far. And the driving as well in Hua Hin, it's just not enjoyable compared to Koh Samui. There's no beautiful, you know, jungle and hillside views that you get in Koh Samui. It's just traffic and mayhem and freeways, which I do not like. So for the activities section, in my opinion, although it is tight, I'd say Koh Samui wins. Next up, a very tough category is food and coffee. Which destination does it better? If we're just talking coffee, then it's an easy win for Samui. Don't get me wrong, if you want really good coffee in Samui, you absolutely have to pay a bit of a premium compared to the rest of Southeast Asia, but you can get world-class, best in the world coffee in Samui. In Hua Hin, you'll find lots of places that do, decent coffee, but I've never found one place in Hua Hin that does amazing, like, oh my God, I'm blown away coffee, whereas there are definitely places in Samui that do that. So for coffee, it's an easy win for Samui, but food is a bit of a different story. In Hua Hin, there are endless options in every single different cuisine you can possibly think of, everything from Western food, Thai food, Middle Eastern food. You can really find it all here in Hua Hin. Don't get me wrong, Koh Samui does have lots of, similar options, but I think that the main difference is that in Samui, the places that do really exceptional, really amazing food, generally speaking, are catering to the short-term tourists that are there, and as such, the prices are nowhere near as affordable as Hua Hin. And for that reason, I have to give this entire category to Hua Hin. It's really amazing that you can go to countless different restaurants all over the city and pay like 200 baht, 300 baht for a meal and just be blown away when it comes to food quality. In Samui, if you wanted to go to a nice restaurant and just be blown away by the quality of food you were having, you'd realistically speaking be spending like 400-500 baht, something like that. So it's definitely nowhere near as affordable as Hua Hin, and it's definitely not as fresh, I'd say, as Hua Hin. So for this category, Hua Hin definitely wins it. Next up, and we briefly touched on this point earlier, but that is cost of living, and surprise, surprise, Hua Hin is the clear winner of this category. And to be honest, this is something that really surprised me about Hua Hin compared to Koh Samui, because accommodation, depending on the area that you stay, is roughly sort of 30%, give or take a couple percent cheaper in Hua Hin compared to Koh Samui, which is really nice. Food is a big one. I'd say food is 30% cheaper in Hua Hin compared to Koh Samui, which, especially when it comes to eating out, means that you're just getting so much more bang for your buck. And that's also something that I've noticed in Koh Samui. It wasn't uncommon for lots of people to cook at home, but because the food prices are so much cheaper here in Hua Hin, it's kind of just way more convenient to eat out every single meal, if I'm being honest. The thing that shocked me the most in terms of cheapness, though, is transportation. And yeah, transportation in Hua Hin, it's anywhere from like 40 to 50% cheaper in Hua Hin compared to Koh Samui, which was really shocking for me. I rented an NMAX in both Samui and Hua Hin, and I paid roughly half the price in Hua Hin. As well, if you're talking about Grabs and taxis and things like that, they're around half the price, if not even more cheaper in Hua Hin, which is really nice as well, because taxis in Koh Samui are quite expensive, and it means that generally speaking, to have a relatively affordable trip, you 100% need a motorbike. But in Hua Hin, because taxis are so cheap, you don't really need a motorbike if you don't want one, which makes things really nice and really convenient. The next category is the community and the overall people that you'll meet in these destinations, and this is a definitely pretty interesting category, I'd say. Now, generally speaking, you'll meet way more younger people in Koh Samui than Hua Hin. The one caveat that I will give to that, though, is that the young people that you do meet here in Hua Hin, generally speaking, they're here for the long term, either 1 to 3 months to even just indefinitely, which is a really nice change compared to Koh Samui, because definitely most of the people I was meeting, at least, people in their 20s, generally speaking, were only there for a very short time, a week, something like that. So that's a nice change. And I'd say that the crowd in Hua Hin is definitely a bit more mature as well. You'd, generally speaking, meet tons of people in their early 20s in Koh Samui, whereas I feel like in Hua Hin, it's more late 20s and 30s. But if you are going to Koh Samui, there is a massive digital nomad community. You just need to know how to find them. My personal recommendations are to check Facebook groups and things like that, to go out to lunches, and yeah, you can't really go wrong with things like that. You will meet tons of people. So for community, it's an easy win for Koh Samui, but let's talk about the ease of getting to both destinations and their connectability. And yeah, no surprise for this category, it's an easy win for Hua Hin. To be honest, both destinations are probably as difficult to get to one another, because if you're coming from another country, generally speaking, you'll probably fly to Bangkok. If you're going from Bangkok to Samui, you're gonna have to fly, which is 1 to 2 hours, so that's time there. But if you're going from Bangkok to Hua Hin, you're generally speaking either gonna have to get a bus or a car or a taxi or something like that, which is a 3-ish hour drive. It's obviously way cheaper if you are to go to Hua Hin, because the flights from Bangkok to Samui are very expensive. But travel time is more or less around the same, so they're probably about as easy to get to each other. The one caveat, obviously, is that Bangkok is way closer to Hua Hin, and as such, you're way more connected to the world. So yeah, obviously Hua Hin wins this one. But finally, which destination offers the better lifestyle? And to be honest, I don't want to sit on the fence on this one, but it's such a tough one to decide. I'd say that Koh Samui is such an inspiring place that you can experience so many different things. But Hua Hin, because it's such a modern city, there's so much infrastructure, endless restaurants and cafes, things like that. It does make it really comfortable for long-term living. And I definitely understand why people choose Hua Hin for long-term living. That being said though, there's just not that many young people in Hua Hin, which is generally speaking what I'm looking for. So for that reason, if I had to come back for a month, I would probably choose Koh Samui. But if I had to choose a place to actually live long-term, might be a different story. Maybe I'd choose Hua Hin just because it's much more built up, closer to Bangkok, things like that. But overall, who wins this category? Who offers the better lifestyle? I would say that Koh Samui does offer a better lifestyle. You do have to pay a bit more for that. There are some inconveniences that you'll come across along the way, but overall, Koh Samui, it's just one of the most magical places on the planet. And if you're thinking about coming to anywhere in Thailand, add Koh Samui to your list. But that's it for this video. If you did enjoy and you did find this of value, please drop a like. It really helps me out. And why not subscribe?